Planned a march to the West Bank prison in East London calling for his release. Dalindyebo was sentenced to 12 years in prison for kidnapping, assault, arson and defending the ends of justice. This is the second time a march has been organized. Our reporter Busisiwe Jemsana-Mantashe is standing by with more on the story. Busisiwe, there has been a low turnout in previous marches. How is the turnout today?
Very good afternoon, Mahindra. And yes, indeed, there's been a low turnout in these marches that have been organized to come and demand that the king is released. And today is no different. The turnout is still low even today, but we've seen different political parties, including the EFF, AZAPO, AIC. We've seen the Christian fraternity. We've seen chiefs who are coming in support, but they make a total of about 40-50 people, but they are saying that as small as they are, but they are not going to stop too much to demand that the king is released. The first letter was written in June by AZAPO to the president to ask or request that the king is released on presidential pardon. In September, we saw another march which was led by also the EFF chairperson, Advocate Dalindyebo, and today they are marching again, saying that their petition is not being answered. The silence of the president is too loud. But to talk to us more about that, I'm joined by one of the organizers, Prince Langalbalele Ngonyama. You continue to hold these marches, but the turnout in them is very low, and you continue to hold them despite that you are saying that you are not being answered. There are no answers to your marches. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, about the turnout, we have people that send us a message of support. We have just read out a message from the king for one, and we have a lot of other messages. So you are not just looking at the people that are here, which are about, they're more than 40 by the way, 150 or so. We're not just looking at those. We're looking at the bigger scale, some in Cape Town, some in KwaZulu-Natal. They, of course, continue, as we continue seeking for the president's relief. We're going to continue this message. We're not going to stop. And we are very much encouraged to have our religious leaders here. Are very much encouraged to have different political formations that are here. For one, we have seen the AIC for the first time. I'm sure there were others that will join. We also expected the members of the ANC that are also willing to come. We have also seen different religious leaders, as we have different religious leaders in the first time when we were here. We have now seen other faces. So we continue to grow. Well, we have to come here, and because we're here, we meant when we were here that we need some response. Whether we are 2 or 3, but the petition remains a petition that must be answered. That does not discourage us at all. Our constitutional right is a constitutional right that has to be answered. We just have made them to receive it. Now they're, of course, replying to say they did indeed send it through to the office of the president. But of course, they are not in a position to respond as to why that office has not responded. So I understand them in that sense.
And under what circumstances are you saying the president should give a presidential pardon to the king?
Well, we stated that we put it in our first application or petition that we brought it here, that the judicial system is well corrected or well respected, we understand. But the fact that we don't have the traditional courts that are being recognized, that says a lot, In terms of the jurisprudence, in terms of understanding of what is crime or what is irrational, the test of evidence that we rely on from the traditional base, it's just been ignored as just those non-entities, which is not fair. But you continue to say we have a best constitution that represents the needs of the people. As far as water, electricity, and education, jobs, well, all that well appreciated. But we're not only living with those. We have issues, family-related issues that need to be adjudicated upon. We have disputes. We have people that are victimized in our rural areas. We have people that are suspected of witchcraft. We are one of the cases that brought the king here. He intervened in that case. We have older women that are constantly being raped by youngsters because they now don't know any form of rule in terms of our traditional base, because traditional leaders were technically stripped of the power. Now it's about any man, any young man have a right, So that community that used to be there, to be the leader of the society, that system is broken apart. But we continue to say we have a best constitution. We cannot be detected by the values of the Roman Dutch law that detects who we are. That we cannot accept. That would we say that even if our traditional leaders, they're not taking these things seriously, some of them, they're fine with the system the way it is, but we have people that us as people, we can't accept, we can't die for nowhere. We are saying that he has to look at these things in that manner. We understand there are victims. We understand there are also victims of those brought the cases to the king. So this is how it was never a matter of a personal grudge. That's what we say. All the prisoners that are there, all these circumstantial cases are from the personal perspective, where they were doing whatever they were doing, stealing or killing other people, stabbing others, from a personal grudge point of view. That makes the case to be different. But when I will say that, we think it's against being above the law, which is misconstrued all the time. People just want to reduce the part. There are others that were found there that have committed murder. There's no action. They admitted, they first said it's a king, then later on it was found it was not the king. No action taken against me.
And speaking of victims and admission, at this point, is the royal family and the king at a point where they admit that there were wrongs being done, or at a point where they apologize to those victims of those families?
Well, the admission of wrong, what was done, it takes away the point that there were people that brought the cases. You see, that's where you reduce this thing to that extent all the time. We cannot take away that there were cases that were brought there. Whether the king had no jurisdiction over their case or what, there were cases. They're here to preside over that. That there was no system in place which would have prevented from the king have to take that action in the first place. That could have prevented the preventative measures. You cannot have people that you so recognize as king and chiefs, but you don't have a system in which they must use to preside over cases, to administer justice, to be take particular responsibility as chiefs. So if we don't have a system that will have prevented this thing, and just want to say, apologize to the victim, you are now taking away from the bigger picture. And then by that, we're not saying that those people are not important. But there are people that are continuously being victimized now, you understand? So that is how we put this matter. We want it to be accepted in that manner.
And now you are here.
Yeah.
You've been here. What's the way forward now after this?
Well, that letter that we got there, it does say that at least within 14 days, we expect the president to respond. Failing which, we will then have to sit again and plan another way of action. But for now, we're asking all traditional leaders, they must not reduce this thing to King's Olubanzi, so-called Daka King. They must look at the bigger picture here. And for those people that are victims, we are not even saying we don't understand what happened, but we so wish, we regret the circumstances that were there, that the king had to act. They know themselves that it's not the king who brought them to the great place. They know that for the fact. At least that they know. So this is where we are. We are saying that the traditional leaders cannot just be used for PR exercise during the elections. We cannot just taking photograph with the president, which does not really recognize who we are. We understand that he's a man that is humble, but we want to see his words in action. He continues to go to these kingdoms, and we have hope we take him serious, but when there's no action in place, we are very deeply concerned. We are now saying that let's have the solidarity on this matter. Moving forward, let's consolidate our forces. Let's talk about these issues. Let's address them. Otherwise, we'll be finished for good.
And talking of King of Daka, at least now Daka is legal in South Africa. Prince Gonyama, thank you so much for your time. We're going to have to leave it there. There you have it. King Buyelekhaya Dalindyebo has served about a quarter of his 12-year sentence in this prison, and they are calling on the president to intervene in the matter. It would seem like the crust of the matter is customary law and how people used to do things. The kings, the chiefs used to do things in the rural areas, how they used to rule, the traditional courts that they were there, what they had to do, the sentences that they posed on the people, and really it lies on the president now to make a decision and decide the fate and the future of King Buyelekhaya Dalindyebo. But now it is back to in studio.
Thank you very much indeed. Busisiwe Jemsana reporting live from East London in the Eastern Cape.